What if you thought someone you just met was a fugitive you saw on our program? By logging onto our website, there are a lot of different ways you could find out. You could look him up by his description. You could look him up by the crime you think he committed. You could look him up by the state or region you saw him in. In our next case, a viewer went to amw.com to look up a guy who really gave him the creeps. And he found out that his feelings were right on the mark.
Florence is a great town. It's a small town.
In 1999, a man quietly rolled into this tranquil setting in Florence, Oregon. He called himself David Carson.
With a can of coffee is what it's supposed to be, but they wouldn't give you a can of coffee, David.
David spent much of his time here at the Church of the Nazarene. Before long, he would become a regular parishioner and very involved in the church community.
He was unpretentious, rather quiet, reserved, didn't force himself on people.
When asked about his past, David Carson told a very tragic story.
So the story was that he was David Carson from Maine, whose family died in a car crash. He told us that he was the driver and that his wife and his 2 daughters died in the car crash.
Because of the car crash, Carson claimed he never drove again and therefore carried no driver's license. That seemed odd. So did some other things about this David Carson guy.
He always wore a baseball cap and he always wore sunglasses. And I always think that that's peculiar to me, just because I always feel like people are hiding under their sunglasses and their, baseball caps.
John had plenty of reason to be concerned because David was renting a room from John's family in Florence. He'd slowly worked his way into their lives, even taking part in family holiday celebrations.
That's what Grandpa. Wait till Grandpa comes, Grandpa.
At the end of 2003, my father told me that they had decided to make him the executor of their will and the trustee of their estate. And that deeply troubled me because I was like, well, you don't really know who this guy is.
But John was about to find out.
Say probably about March, maybe, or a friend of mine had called me on the telephone and had said that he might have seen somebody who looked like David on America's Most Wanted. So what I did was I went to the website and I just started looking. I figured that he showed up around 1999, beginning of 2000, so I just went to your archives of the America's Most Wanted website and started looking show by show by show by show. And so I got to, I think it was the December 16th show of 2000, and there was this picture that looked just like David Carson.
It was a picture of a man we knew as Gordon Weaver. We've been hunting for Weaver since 1999. That year, someone torched Weaver's Minnesota home. This is police video taken just after the flames had been put out.
Because of smoke damage, everything was blackened with heavy soot and stuff like that. It just had an eerie feeling.
That feeling was justified when cops found Gordon Weaver's wife, Jean, dead inside the house. Cops say Gordon Weaver started the fire.
Jean Weaver had recently told Gordon Weaver that she was going to divorce him.
Shortly before trial, he had hit the road, fleeing to Oregon and assuming the new identity of David Carson. The website had told John that his parents were living with an accused murderer. Now he had to convince his parents of it.
So what I did was I printed out the picture, and then on a separate page, I printed out the little story. And I showed the picture, and I said, does this look like anybody you know? And they said, oh, that's David. And then I showed them the story that that was there on the website. And my dad, he started shaking, and he fell to the floor, and he just started crying.
John then turned the information over to the cops, who got ready to head to the house where Weaver was staying. Two problems. One, location.
The back side of the house is a straight drop-off cliff, so you can't get behind the house.
And two, they might not be the only ones armed.
We had information that he did have a .22 rifle in the house.
Our fear was that if he got out of the house and got into the woods, we could have some serious problems because a man with a rifle in the woods controls a lot of things.
They formulated a plan. 2 agents would approach the door, posing as workers from the church, while the rest of the team sealed off all escape routes.
Our thought was if we can get him to answer the front door, he'll be the furthest away from that gun. Once he got to the door, we wanted to make sure he didn't get back into the house. And then you could tell in his eyes that the wheels were spinning in his head. I've never seen these guys before. And he started to take a step backwards. And the other agent and I grabbed his arms and took him into custody without incident.
Just like that, 5 years on the run came to an end for Gordon Weaver. And Jean Weaver, the woman Gordon Weaver once loved, a woman brutally taken from her family, has finally gotten justice.
I was there when she was brought out of that burning house. He could have saved my sister. He didn't. He chose to set a fire. I feel like we don't know all the answers to that day, and I've always wanted to know the answers. Now I hope we can.
Great takedown. And if you want more information about it, just go to amw.com and click on Captures. Now stay with us. We got lots more to do right here and online when we come back.